Hello and welcome back to the Daily Breaking News YouTube channel. For the past 2 weeks, Russia has been living in a nightmare. In early April, Russia reduced its invasion aims in Ukraine and said that it would prioritize conquering the Donbass area. The Russian force needed to bridge the Siverski Dignitas river for this, but Ukraine's valiant defenders refused to let them. In recent days, Russian soldiers in Sivero-Donetsk have resisted all-out Russian attacks. Simferopol's condition is severe right now. Clashes continue, but Ukraine continues to fight despite Russia's persistent shelling. Ukraine, on the other hand, launched an all-out assault to free Kirsan and Mycolife. Meanwhile, after the Russian army failed to cross the Siverski Dignitas river, Ukrainian special forces began an offensive near the settlement of Dronivka in the Donetsk area of eastern Ukraine. After the Russian military forces abandoned the Russian BMP-2, Ukrainian special forces destroyed it. Stratcom, Ukraine's strategic communications center, claimed SSO fighters destroyed the crippled BMP-2, which was abandoned following an unsuccessful effort to cross the Siverski Dignitas river near Dronivka. The Ukrainian military said they used the Spanish Instaliza C90 shoulder-fired grenade launcher to explode the BMP-2 amphibious assault vehicle. The Ukrainian army is now demonstrating the Spanish C90 rocket launcher. In the 1990s, Spain provided 1,370 to Ukraine as part of the war against Russian forces. The C90 is a single-shot anti-tank rocket armament system intended for infantry forces. It is capable of launching a broad range of rockets, including anti-tank, dual-purpose, and anti-shelter rockets. This C90 family variant may be shot from small constrained areas. The Spanish C90 also comes with a variety of grenade variants. The C90 is also available in mission-specific versions such as anti-tank, anti-bunker, combination anti-armor fragmentation, smoke, incendiary, and training. As a disposable weapon system, the C90 Crossfire M3 series launches 88.9 mm caliber rockets at predetermined ranges of 300 meters for point targets and 800 meters for area targets. After the rocket is launched, the non-refillable launch tube is discarded. The varied usage of the Spanish C90 is ideal for the Ukrainian army's special operations and guerrilla tactics against the Russians. The C90 incorporates a rocket into a fiberglass plastic launch tube. The tube launcher has optics that allow it to fire at distances of up to 350 meters for a point target and 700 meters for a field target. The shoulder strap attached to the launch tube allows it to be carried. The C90 weighs just 5 kilograms and has a length of 940 millimeters, allowing it to be carried by a single soldier for firing. The C90 crossover is simple to operate and does not require any extra training. The firing mechanism, which includes a cocking rod, safety, ignition selector, and trigger, is positioned on top of the tube launcher. The C90 has a penetration depth of 500 millimeters in armored steel and 1,000 millimeters in concrete. It is effective against major battle tanks as well as weakly armored vehicles. The Instaliza C90, also known as the M3, is a disposable 90mm shoulder-fired single-person weapon that can be fitted with a VN-38C night vision device with 4x magnification for complete night combat capability. Despite the Ukrainian defenders' burial of Russian tanks and armored vehicles in the region's Siverski Dignitas river, Russian forces continue their onslaught in eastern Ukraine's Donbass, and Russian troops have now penetrated the city of Sivero-Donetsk, which is key in the region. The situation is critical right now. Russia may take the city, but Ukraine has the ability to defend Kirsan and Mycolife. The pressure of Russian shelling or Russian conquest of a portion of the territory does not imply that Russia can win the war or announce a great triumph. When we look at the hot developments in the region, we see that it is the end of the month, which is, once again, a significant moment. The city of Sivero-Donetsk, which is between Luhansk and Donetsk, said that it was attacked 200 times an hour, destroying more than 90% of its infrastructure. Simultaneously, it was claimed that at least 1,500 civilians had been killed in the city. So far, Russia's actions have shown that they don't care how many lives they have to sacrifice. In his last national speech, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky mentioned Russian soldiers in the region. This was a physical manifestation of Russia's hatred for Ukraine's defense ministry. According to Russian spokesperson Alexander Matuszynek, Ukrainian troops are trying all possible to keep Russian forces from entirely encircling Sivero-Donetsk. The liberation of the Donetsk and Luhansk areas, which the Russian Federation recognizes as sovereign republics, is an absolute priority, according to Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. According to both sides, Russian forces currently control between a third and half of the city. Russia's separatist proxies admitted that, despite one of the war's largest ground operations, capturing it took longer than intended. We can already claim possession of over a third of Sivero-Donetsk, according to Leonid Pastnik, chairman of the pro-Moscow Luhansk People's Republic, as cited by the Russian state news agency TASS. According to Alexander Stryk, the chairman of the Ukrainian city government, the Russians currently control half of the city. Civilians cannot be evacuated at this time. He verified that Russian forces had moved several blocks closer to the city center. He said that Ukrainian forces were trying to drive Russians into street warfare, and that the 12,000 to 13,000 residents who remained in the city sought refuge in basements and bunkers to avoid the incessant shelling. A French journalist was killed yesterday in Sivero-Donetsk when the armored humanitarian evacuation van he was traveling in was hit by shrapnel from Russian gunfire. According to local officials, shrapnel entered the vehicle's armor, killing Frederick Leclerc-Imhoff as he traveled with people fleeing Russian bombing. Following the attack, the evacuation was cancelled. The demolition outraged Jan Egeland, Secretary-General of the Norwegian Refugee Council organization, which has long operated out of Sivero-Donetsk. Unfortunately, the city has been split in two, but it is still defending itself. The city is still mostly Ukrainian. According to the Ukrainian administration, Russia destroyed all of the city's essential infrastructure with non-stop bombardments, followed by a wave of mass ground attacks with a huge number of deaths, said Sergei Dai, the regional governor of Luhansk, appearing on Ukrainian national television. Unfortunately, we have some bad news. The enemy is approaching the city. The Russian military employs the same techniques over and over. They shoot cannonballs for many straight hours before attacking. Gaidai indicated that the Ukrainian soldiers were not in danger of being surrounded, but that they could have to retire. Cross the Siverski Dignitas River to Lysychansk, the other bank's twin city. We worry that up to 12,000 civilians will be targeted because they lack access to water, food, medication, or electricity. The near-constant bombardment is pushing inhabitants to seek refuge in bomb shelters and basements, leaving few options for those attempting to flee. According to witnesses, the city was blasted 200 times per hour as Russian forces attempted to breach the fortifications and encircle the surviving Ukrainian defenders. According to local sources, around 1,500 people were murdered in the Russian assaults on St. Petersburg. According to Alexander Strait, the city was completely destroyed, and the number of casualties was growing by the hour, not including those killed and injured in street combat. On the other hand, Russian artillery was said to have destroyed the city's dams and essential infrastructure, as well as damaged 90 structures. Communications in the city, which previously had a population of 100,000 people, have been largely disrupted. According to eyewitnesses, Russian tanks advanced into the city center one blast at a time, destroying anything that remained after the intensive bombardment, which Ukrainian officials stated produced circumstances similar to Mariupol. Russia, on the other hand, is attempting to strengthen its grip after failing to conquer Kiev in the early phases of the war. Russia is now concentrating its firepower in a smaller region, launching artillery and bombers against villages and cities. Unlike the earlier phase of the fight, when Russia's soldiers were largely poorly distributed, what happened in Sivero-Donetsk today will go down in history with Russia's bloody hands. We hope that Russia's bloodlust will be put to an end as soon as possible. We hope that Ukraine and Russia can come to a peace deal that protects Ukraine's freedom and territorial integrity and keeps the country healthy, happy, and peaceful.